Mr. Chair and members of the Commission, we are now live.
Good evening and welcome to the April 26th meeting of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Bob Sutton and I am the chair. And I would like for our commission members to introduce themselves, starting on my left, and staff introduce themselves as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Doman.
Jeffrey Haynes.
Julie Pelletier.
Michael Galway.
Cristina Arado.
Rebecca Ballo, Historic Preservation Staff.
John Lieberts, Historic Preservation Staff.
And Dan Brukert, Historic Preservation Staff.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda are historic area work permits. Have the work permits been advertised?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they were advertised in the April 12th issue of the Washington Times.
Thank you. If there's anyone here to testify on any of these cases and you have not done so already, please give a speaker form to the staff and they will let us know that you are here to address one of the cases. We are going to begin by expediting cases we believe can be expedited based on staff reports. And if there's anyone here to speak in opposition to any of these cases, let us know. So, the first case we will consider is item 1A at 17320 Moore Avenue, Boyds. Case 1D at 7 Hickory Avenue, Tacoma Park. And 1E at 7001 Poplar Avenue, Tacoma Park.
Mr. Chair, hearing no objections, I move that we approve the following historic area work permits in accordance with staff reports based upon the record before us in consideration of the recommendations of local advisory panels and including conditions recommended by staff.
Is there a second?
Hang on.
I'm sorry, still going.
Yep, hang on. Hop number 1025691 at 17320 Moore Road, Boyds. Hop number 1026793 at 7 Hickory Avenue, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1026927 at 7001 Poplar Avenue, Tacoma Park.
Now, is there a second?
This is Commissioner Pelletier, I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All these projects have been approved, and we appreciate the work that you've done to bring them to us in a form that we can easily approve. Our first hearing tonight will be on case number 1B at 12 Melrose Street, Chevy Chase. Is there a staff report?
Yes, there is, Mr. Chair. Just real briefly, this is a staff report for 12 East Melrose Street. It's a historic area work permit to remove and construct a fence. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing chain link fence on the, it says it's the rear, and then the left as you're viewing it, or the east side, which is over here, which is actually on the right side of the image. There'll be 38 linear feet of 4-foot tall picket fence, and then 190 linear feet of 6-foot tall board-on-board privacy fence. The building is a contributing resource to the Chevy Chase Village Historic District. It was constructed circa 1918, and this is reviewed under Chapter 24A, the Chevy Chase Village Historic District Design Guidelines, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. So just to familiarize yourself, excuse me, what you see on the left is the where the chain link fence is going to be removed, and 4-foot tall picket fence matching the design of the existing fence will be installed. And then on the right, you see the 6-foot tall chain link fence. This is an area where a fence taller than 4 feet needs to be, because there's a pool in the rear, they need at least a 5-foot fence to enclose the pool area. So the site plan with the proposal. So staff finds that the chain link fence is not historic and does not contribute to the character of the surrounding district and may be removed. The HPC has previously approved the 6-foot fence, the existing 6-foot fence, to satisfy the code requirement for enclosing pool areas. In fact, there's a 2016 HOP referenced in the staff report to remove the chain link fence and install all white picket fence that matches the design of the fence across the front. Staff finds the 4-foot fence will match the dimensions and design of the existing fence, but because a finish was not included in the described work, staff recommends the HPC add a condition to the approval that a 4-foot picket fence be painted to create a consistent appearance. The general requirements for fences forward of the rear wall plane in Chevy Chase Village is typically that they're no taller than 4 feet and have an open picket design. The two primary reasons for this is the guidelines. One of their two paramount principles is that all changes are evaluated to preserve the open park-like setting of the district. Chevy Chase Village uses strict scrutiny, limited scrutiny, moderate scrutiny and lenient scrutiny. It says fences should be subject to strict scrutiny if they detract significantly from the existing open streetscape. Otherwise, fences should be subject to moderate scrutiny if they are visible from the public right-of-way and lenient scrutiny if they are not. So staff finds the solid fence along the left side of the house creates a visual barrier and does not maintain the open park-like setting. So staff finds the fence in the rear is compatible in character and satisfies the requirements of the requisite guidance. So staff also recommends that the HPC add a condition to the approval that the section of the fence forward of the rear wall plane, which is what's outlined in blue, needs to have an open picket design. Staff still supports a 6-foot fence in that location. There are a number of other ways, including vegetative screening, that the HPC wouldn't review that could provide a visual barrier in that location. But staff recommends the HPC approve the HOP with the 2 recommended conditions. And I'll answer any questions that you have at this time.
Any questions for staff?
I've got a question.
I'm sorry?
I've got
Oh, Commissioner Galway.
It's Commissioner Galway. The existing fence on the front, is that, I missed it, is that also a 6-foot? No, that's a 4-foot fence, or what's the height of that?
So the fence that you see in the image in front of you is 6 feet tall.
And is that the fence that's prohibiting people from getting to the pool, or is there a secondary fence beyond that? I can't.
That's a code compliant fence that encloses the entirety of the rear backyard, the rear yard.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Pelletier?
What's the green fence in the,
So the green fence is actually matching this design here. This is a 4-foot picket fence that surrounds much of the neighboring property.
oh,
So
okay.
they're going to remove this section of chain link fence that you see on the image on the left, and that will be replaced with a matching fence that's 4 feet tall. So they're going from the front edge of that fence back to the existing 6-foot tall picket fence. Will be a 4-foot tall picket fence.
Is the existing fence in the front
Yes.
6 feet?
This fence is.
Oh, it is, oh, okay.
This
Sorry.
one that goes across the,
It doesn't look it. It looks shorter in the photo. Okay, that answers my question, thanks.
Any other questions for staff? If not, I invite the owner and representative to come forward. And I have 2 names. I have Brody Barger and Laura Braden Frederick, fence company agent.
Laura was not able to make it.
Okay.
Prior engagement, we weren't anticipating that to come, but thank you for the opportunity.
If you could turn on the microphone, push the button till the light turns on, and then give your name, and you'll have 7 minutes if you'd like.
Green light, right?
Yes.
So again, my name is Brody. I'm Representative Frederick Fence Company, who is putting the permit in for Ms. McKay. I would like to make a note that the fence style was listed as board on board is actually sandwich board, which is a different style of fence. The style that we're proposing is a finished on both side fence, so there's no framing that can be seen from either the inside or the outside. I honestly feel like I came unprepared compared to that slideshow I just saw. This is a project that's been in the work for quite some time, and I think he hit on all the major points other than the fact the greenscapes that were suggested to give the additional privacy, since this does come on a shared line where there is a pool, the additional cost for that across the life of the fence, where the fence would prohibit you from needing to have to do that, is quite substantial. I believe Ms. McKay gave me across the 5-year savings that her landscaper was charging her to cut back the stuff that has grown through the chain link fence from the neighboring property was in the several $1,000s range. She keeps a very tidy rear yard. Putting this fence up would eliminate the need to have to continue to do that. And we're talking a very moderate portion of the fence coming up from the rear plane towards the front, where we're meeting up with an existing 6-foot-tall fence that is a closed or narrow space picket that hits a pool code compliance, which is it's similar to a semi-privacy fence already. Because of that street facing, when you're looking at the fence, you're looking at it at a perpendicular angle, or the spine, so to speak, of the fence. It's not as obtrusive as if, say, we were proposing to run from the home out across the front of the line and giving it that more boxed-in appearance. We would hope that the council would take in consideration that because this is a pool, that privacy for the pool does go in hand with as far as activities that are possibly done at the pool, bathing suits and things from unwanted eyes from neighboring properties. As far as physical security goes, you've seen in the pictures, the existing fence, as far as the wood picket goes, is in great shape. The chain link fence is in poor repair. It doesn't appear like it was ever taken care of across the life of the fence, and it definitely hasn't been since Ms. McKay moved in approximately 8 years ago. There is no saving that fence, and that fence doesn't currently meet a 2013 updated pool code that's in effect for Montgomery County. Putting this fence in not only does things aesthetically that we previously mentioned, but it does make the property significantly more secure for anyone trying to enter into the backyard, and thus making Ms. McKay liable for some sort of breach of barrier in the yard should a child or young adult be able to climb any type of other fence and get into the property in an unattended fashion. I don't believe there's an issue with painting the 4-foot picket. I think that was already planned. We would ask that it does specify that there is no required painting for the privacy fence on any of the sides, the rear or the shared line running up to where the 6-foot fence meets the 4-foot fence. Painting that large of a section of fence, especially a solid board fence as we're requesting, would give the idea of like a large white wall, which I don't think would fall in with the community aesthetics that we're trying to maintain. Like I mentioned before, the fence is finished on both sides, so there's no framing that the neighbor would need to see. This is a very expensive fence that Ms. McKay is offering to pay out of pocket on her own dime and asking for no compensation from the neighbor. She understands that doing this is something that can help both parties involved, and that she would also hope you guys would take that into consideration as well for the style change.
Any questions for Mr. Barger? Commissioner Pelletier.
What kind of wood is it? Is it cedar?
Cedar, yes, ma'am.
Is it, I don't know there's like the knotty cedar, and then there's the,
So it's a
clear.
graded 2 or better.
Okay.
So there are partial knots in it. Every approximate 10 board feet, it's allowed to have a knot. This isn't deemed clear. That is something that we could, if you specify, we could provide that as a cost, but again, it would be an additional cost to the customer to go to that higher graded board.
like how, can you give a percentage?
About 20% of the total
Oh,
job
okay.
cost.
Okay.
That type of wood you typically see used as trim and decorative features in a home. You don't typically use that in an outdoor fence
As
setting.
for a fence,
Yes.
okay. Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Doman.
Do I understand this section of fence will be painted or will not be painted?
The 4-foot picket
Yeah.
would be painted to match the front. That was, I believe, always the plan, and the reason why we're doing a 4-foot picket to match the existing neighbor's 4-foot picket. Otherwise, we would have just left the chain link there. There was no structural need to replace it. It was just something to help beautify the shared line between the two homes.
So it'll look similar to what we see in the photograph in front of us.
Correct. One slight difference would we would have a front runner along with the rear to give it the sandwich board appearance to match the large 6-foot picket coming off of Ms. McKay's house. The fence in that picture there only has the vertical pickets face nailed to a 2x4. Structurally, it's probably okay, but aesthetically, we want it to match the fence that it's tying into where the 6- and 4-foot fence would meet.
Okay, the recommendation was to be painted, and that's what's going to happen. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Commissioner Haynes.
The new cedar fence, does that have any treatment to it? Or will it weather over time to the grayish tint that we see cedar?
So that's completely subjective to the homeowner. We do suggest that the reason why you're paying the extra money for a cedar fence is to let it age naturally and become that subtle weathered look, sort of a graceful gray.
questions? Okay. We will now, I beg your pardon? One more question, Commissioner Pelletier.
Okay, in that picture that we were just looking at, okay, so right there between the nicer picket wood fence in the back and the neighbor's one in the front, that's that green portion in the plan, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's going to match and will be white and will be painted with the one that's towards the back of the photo.
Correct.
Okay, so on the other side of that is the fence. So you're saying you don't want to do, or your client doesn't want to do the open section of fence that's the depth of the house,
to the
right?
rear, to the rear plane, yes.
Okay, so in this photo, are they the same height?
Yes.
So that's a 6-foot fence, so behind it, you're going to have a 6-foot cedar fence that's solid.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
And I believe in a few pictures we've provided, you actually cannot see the existing chain link fence that's there, which you see in the right picture now, looking from the rear of the property
Right.
forward. You can't see that fence there. And when it's brand new, that fence is going to stick out a little bit more than after it's been weathered. But unless you're standing close to that picket, because of how tight those pickets must be to pass the local municipality pool code, it acts as a semi-privacy fence. It's almost impossible to see behind that fence.
okay, thanks.
Any other questions? If not, if you could turn off your microphone, we will start our deliberation. Anyone like to start off?
I'll be happy to.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Haynes. I feel that the overall strategy, help maintain the streetscape with the replacement of the chain link with the 4-foot tall board on picket fence to match the neighbor. I think that's an appropriate move. I personally am fine with the solid board on board cedar fence that would be beyond the existing 6-foot tall picket fence and fencing the two sides of the property. I think when that board weathers, hopefully they'll allow it to weather to a gray, I think it'll begin to disappear into the landscape and therefore, again, not have an impact from the streetscape, but provide the privacy that the owners wish to have. So I would support the project.
Anyone else? Yeah. I'm sorry?
I've got a comment.
Oh, Commissioner Galloway.
This is Commissioner Galway. Yeah, I think that, as I look at the staff recommendations, and number one, I would certainly support, and that is the proposed 4-foot picket fence needs to have a painted finish, and by painted finish, meaning the white to match both the 6-foot picket fence at the back as well as the neighbor's 4-foot picket fence. I think as Jeff mentioned, I think, Commissioner, I think I would
No, that's it too.
I'd be okay with the fence along the left property boundary beyond that 6-foot picket fence in the rear of the yard. I think to be a board-on-board solid fence without a painted finish, just a natural cedar finish that would be allowed to age. That would be my recommendation. Thank you.
So they're saying that has to be, and we're saying that's going to be solid.
Any other comments? Ms. Balla, did you have I see your phone, your microphone is on. Would you like to add something?
I would, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have not received any correspondence from the Chevy Chase Village LAP on this item. And the Chevy Chase Village LAP, when it comes to items requiring strict scrutiny, actually, they're normally very good about giving us their comments. The Chevy Chase Village Design Guidelines have a specific role for the LAP that their comments should be taken into account. I cannot speak as to why they did not comment on this one. They might have seen the staff condition and said, this looks good. I would also remind the commission that a a board-on-board. It was a garden fence. It was a 5-foot and some odd inch garden fence in the front yard, was the subject of a very lengthy appeals process in Chevy Chase Village. Every lot is looked at on its own account, but the board should be aware that the staff recommendation with the condition had to do with really the years of kind of precedent within the neighborhood regarding fences of that height and character forward of the front wall plane. I know we talked about that in the staff report. We don't have the comments from the LAP. They may certainly agree with it as written. I just offer that I believe is that I would recommend that be part of your deliberations as to whether or not you wish to continue absent the LAP's comments. And again, given the sensitive nature of this type of alteration specifically within Chevy Chase, I offer that just as additional information.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Historic Preservation Commission defer this case pending the opinion of the Chevy Chase LAP, and we get their recommendation and reconsider this case.
Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Rado, I second.
Okay. All in favor of deferring this project, requesting, make sure I understand this correctly, requesting a comment from the Chevy Chase LAP as to the appropriateness of the fence as proposed by the owner or the recommendation of staff? Is that correct? Okay. All in favor of deferring this signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So we are going to request that the Chevy Chase LAP give us their opinion on this fence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll reach out to them directly, and we'll also work directly with the applicant to reschedule this item on an agenda that works for them.
Thank you. And thank you. Thank you. Yes. May I ask you to work with our staff to make sure that the correct description of the fence goes to the LAP? Is that acceptable? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a preliminary consultation, item 2A at 6812 Westmoreland Avenue, Tacoma Park.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a preliminary consultation for a building addition in Tacoma Park at 6812 Westmoreland Avenue. You see it here. It's a craftsman house and constructed circa 1923. It's identified as a contributing resource to the Tacoma Park Historic District. And depending on which information you use, it's either 750 square feet or 720 square feet. Standards of review are Chapter 24A, Tacoma Park Design Guidelines, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. So the proposal is really to discuss 3 items. They're going to excavate a portion of the rear yard, construct a rear addition, and construct a new retaining wall after clearing that out. The applicant also seeks HBC input about the appropriateness of installing solar panels on the right roof slope. Staff wasn't sure if the drawings with the solar panels were purely illustrative or if that was a fully engineered proposal yet, and we can talk about that in a little bit. So again, to familiarize yourself with the property, it's this guy covered in asbestos siding with a nearly full-width gable front porch. The rear, we saw a hop, actually, I think at the first May meeting in 2022 to alter the fenestration of the rear of the building. You see the asbestos siding was removed and the original wood siding exposed. It looks like it's in pretty decent condition. And then you see the existing stone retaining wall and a garage, which was installed sometime after 1927, so it was not constructed with the house originally. So you see the site plan, it's a very narrow lot, it's only 42 feet. There's an existing gravel driveway, and you see the grade rises significantly towards the rear. So it's a modest addition, but the primary reason we have this is that it projects beyond the existing wall plane to both the left and the right side. It's a tight site, so but the addition will include a dining room, a bedroom, and a bathroom, and an entrance foyer. The applicant provided several renderings and perspectives, which are very, very helpful. You see here, you get just a little bit of the porch roof on the right side. You can see the bay window projecting on the left side in elevation. This is the south-facing elevation. And then here you see tucked in tightly between two larger craftsman bungalows. And again, the proximity of the garage makes this pretty difficult. So staff finds that the addition's design is compatible with the character of the house and the surrounding district, and most of the addition's proposed material are consistent with the typical requirements for additions in the Tacoma Park Historic District. The one exception being the Fibrex windows, which have been approved on a case-by-case basis, but in some instances they've been deemed to be too flat to be a compatible replacement window. So more information about this window is required with the HOP application. So the left and right projections are inconsistent with the HPC's typical requirements that the additions be inset from the historic wall plane. Staff finds the projection on the right will be minimally visible, but the larger left bay will be visible from the right-of-way and is only 4 feet off the property line. Staff finds that the bay's impact will be minimal when viewed from the right-of-way because it's approximately 60 feet removed from the street and a full 8 feet above grade. Staff finds that the garage does not date to the time of construction and could be demolished to accommodate relocating the addition's massing. So the HPC has approved other side projecting additions in this section of the Tacoma Park Historic District. 6801 Westmoreland Avenue was approved in 2017 and is constructed, and 6713 Westmoreland is one that the HPC saw several times last year and is approved. They are preparing the site but have not yet begun construction. So staff requests feedback from the HPC on whether the addition is appropriately designed to be compatible with the character of the house and surrounding district, whether the projections beyond the left and right wall planes are appropriate under the guidance and taking into consideration the lot restrictions, whether the materials are appropriate, whether the amount of regrading detracts from the house setting, and any other questions or concerns. And I will answer any questions that you have at this time.
Questions for staff? Commissioner Doman.
It's Commissioner Doman. In that photograph of the back of the house, where it shows the siding, yeah, this is the picture here. Was that covered with vinyl siding at one time?
It was asbestos shingle, and the other 3 elevations of the house are still covered in it.
Okay. Is the intent then to duplicate this siding that is visible in the back on the addition? Is that what they're proposing?
So as part of this project, they are not proposing to remove the asbestos siding on the other 3 sides, but they are proposing to use fiber cement siding that will be in a different reveal. What's shown in the renderings isn't nearly as small of a reveal as in the historic siding, but it is smaller. The applicant can speak to what exactly the reveal proposed is.
Okay, because it's in the as it was exposed, it's very narrow, maybe 2.5 inches or something like that. But as this shows, there's no intent to try and duplicate the narrowness of it.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? If not, I invite the owner's representative, Catherine Stratton Treadway, I believe. Are you okay? I understand you had a foot injury, so I was going to offer to bring the microphone to you, but you look like you can get here just fine. So If you could turn on the microphone and state your name, and that would be wonderful. And then you'll have 7 minutes if you'd like. And I understand that you are representing the owner tonight? Is
Yes,
that
I
correct?
am Catherine Stratton Treadway with Mishbo's Architect.
Okay.
And representing the owners tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks very much. I think Dan did a great job of laying out the challenges of the site and our attempt to fulfill the program desires of the homeowner to have a modern-sized bedroom and dining facility. The existing home includes 2 bedrooms, which are under 100 square feet each. So that was one of the desires of the family. And also to have a bedroom and master bath suite where they can age in place. So no stairs between and 3-foot doorways and the potential for a roll-in shower situation. So those were some of the drivers in the program. And again, as staff ably laid out, it's a very challenging site, elevating steeply back up through the rear yard. It's currently is sort of carved out at the back with a retaining wall. And for our project, we're pushing back approximately 14 feet to allow for the addition and access around the rear. The bay window encroachment into the side yard, we have very carefully worked with DPS zoning folks. We are specifically constrained to be no more than 3 feet from the main wall of the addition into the encroachment. And as you can see on the plan, the property line and therefore the various setback lines are not square with the house. It's probably more visible on the closer up plan. Yeah, so across the top property line, 3-foot setback, and then the 7-foot setback, which we are allowed because of the age of the property. So we did pull back. So the existing house actually encroaches beyond the 7-foot setback. We're pulling our addition back, a few inches behind that 7-foot setback. And from that wall, we're allowed then a 3-foot encroachment. And then again, no more than a 10-foot bump out for the bay window. So as shown in the renderings, we feel that this addition is modest and certainly respects the beautiful gable pediment and the style of the house, and is essentially not visible from the public way. So with that, I welcome comments.
Questions for Ms. Stratton Treadway? Commissioner Doman?
It's Commissioner Doman. I had the opportunity today to drive past the property, and the houses are amazing. Every house is different, every house extends, every house has been modified, and your drawings actually look better than I think the neighborhood looks and the house looks. And today they had the driveway was all tore up. There must be a water problem with the neighbor's house or something like that. The driveway was all tore up. But I think you've tackled the size of this is appropriate. I think the massing of this addition, I think, is very compatible with the neighborhood. I've seen, if you just walk down the street, there are houses that have a lot larger additions than what you're proposing to do. And there are several houses that have large bays that come out off of the property, which is, I guess it was approved, or maybe it was done before HPC got involved with it. But there are a lot of bays in this area. I think the size is very attractive. I think the the roof line being lower than the gable of the main part of the house. I think this is very nice. Are you showing standing seam metal roof? Is that what I see on there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we like that when we're specifying a solar array. It's a long-lasting roof, and it requires no penetrations for the installation of solar.
And I realize that you have this big challenge of the backyard, because as you walk along the street, it actually gets worse, I think, from where you are. Some of the lots are almost like immediately go up in the backyard. You have a little bit of room to work with. I think you've done your homework on this, and I think this looks very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Commissioner Pelletier.
Thank you. What's happening on the back of the original house, like where it turns the corner?
Yeah, thank you, and I forgot to address your siding question, and I can answer both questions at once. So essentially, there's this slight, the siding that you see in the existing elevation will not be visible on the exterior anymore, except for this piece down by the driveway. And so our plan would be, because the owners don't plan to remove the asbestos siding at this point, we would, and there's the door that I think used to be for a lodger to come and go, which has been filled in before. If you see that on the far left side. Yeah, so that,
Oh, I see.
I believe that historically was so a lodger could have independent ingress and egress to the house without
skinny
going through
lodger.
it. So anyway, that is what is going to be visible. So we would propose taking pieces of the siding from the area that's going to be covered up and patching in that door area. So you'll see the historic siding represented there on the side.
Okay. How does the corner, are you just going to put a trim board and
Well-
have the asbestos kind of butt into the trim
Yeah.
board? Okay.
Yeah.
That was one question. My other question is why, I'm a little bit concerned about the bay window being so close to the neighbor's house. Why do you need that door when you have the other door? Like, why do you need two doors going to the backyard?
Yeah, so from the point of view of someone coming from the kitchen to the outdoor patio space, it would be highly desired to have that door out the bay window. It is, as you were saying, there's a great tradition of bay windows, including on the houses next door. And so anyway, that egress from the kitchen through dining to the outdoor dining spaces is desired, rather than having to go all the way around the addition.
The whole addition or the whole bay window is 3 feet deep?
Yeah,
So how big's that door? 2 feet?
I mean, consider it half a French door that you can open out. Yes, it's not ideal, and that's our constraint with the requirements of the bay window encroachment, that it not be more than 3 feet.
So the bay window encroachment, it doesn't matter if it has a foundation or whether it's cantilevered or it has a foundation?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've gotten a thumbs up on this from zoning?
Yes, I mean, we've
Like-
had conversations with them, and
Yeah.
I would expect that if we move forward with this plan, that yes, they will. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Other questions? If not, I think thank you so much. And,
Thank you.
We will deliberate and talk about it, give you our recommendations. I think this is one of the services we provide that I'm actually rather proud of, because we oftentimes are able to help property owners and their representatives maybe improve things a little bit so that it'll be approvable when it comes before us. You saw earlier that we were able to expedite a number of projects, and that's what we sort of aim for. You don't have to do what we suggest, and sometimes we don't agree. Sometimes, we'll split and have different ideas, which is kind of confusing. But we will deliberate and then give you our recommendations for moving this project ahead. And would anyone like to start off with this project? Commissioner Haynes.
Thank you. I share many of Commissioner Doman's earlier comments. I think the massing is well suited to the massing of the original structure. I think that the addition is pulled in from the corners of the original structure. It follows our guidelines that we like to see. With regard to the bay, given that it's less than 10 feet, it's not even a full 3 feet beyond the face of the original structure, I'm not too concerned that it's going to crowd the neighbor at all. I think it's scaled appropriately. And the one thing I might suggest is I see that the windows proposed are single paned windows, no muttons, and that certainly distinguishes the addition from the original structure. But I'm wondering if it's too contemporary that way, and if you had looked at windows with muttons, or even if you're using casements. So I was going to suggest if they were double hung, then you might consider doing the top sash in muttons to help carry that element of the original house. And it does look like the original house has windows with muttons, and carry that element through to bring that architectural element through the house. I'm fine with the metal roof. Are the solar panels relatively accurate in the amount and location?
They don't represent a specific proposal, but I have since seen a proposal given to the owners, which, I don't want to misstate here. I think it did not include putting panels on the historic house. However, that's something we wanted to test with you in case there would be a proposal to do that.
Well, we certainly support solar panels as long as they're well arranged, and I think what you have shown here seemed reasonably balanced on the roof and composed. But overall, I think it's a compatible addition, and I would support it overall. I think I'm not sure about the siding, but I don't think that's a game stopper for me in terms of you're going to have asbestos, German, and then hardy siding. I take it for the addition. Maybe you consider running the hardy on the back of the original structure rather than the German shiplap. But again, that's not a game breaker from my point of view. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Doman.
This is Commissioner Doman. In the back, there's this patio that you proposed, and then a retaining wall. Maybe I missed it, but is the material specified in your application? Or so far in this is a prelim, I understand that, but have you identified what you're going to be using and the number of square feet that would be covered?
It's not specified insofar, we have sort of looked at it aesthetically in the model making process, and we would expect that the wall would be stone, and that we're in the process of of developing our stormwater management.
Yeah, that's what I was
plan.
driving at, right.
And so it could be that we're going to end up with the patio being permeable pavers of a stone resembling material. And, but again, we're just in the preliminary stages of stormwater management on a narrow and steep site.
Okay, I mean, when you come back for an application, this would be specified,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Question or comment?
I'll make a comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Pelletier.
Thank you. So my comment is on I don't know what direction, on the elevation that's close to the neighbor with the bay window, you're indicating that that area to the right of the bay window is blue. That's actually part of the addition. Is that just an error?
Yes.
So that should be the yellow and the same side, okay.
Right. Any part of the addition, we are planning to differentiate both in the reveal of the siding and in the color, which, yeah.
Okay, that was a comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, I actually like this. I think it's a challenge, first of all, to have a house that's so tiny, have an addition on it. And I think what you've done is actually very nice. I actually don't have a problem. Normally I would with the bay, but I think given the size of the house, the size of the addition, the location from the street, and everything, I think it's appropriate, and I would approve that. I actually, if they come in with, if you and your owner come in with the proposal for the solar panels as they are in this image, I think we would be very happy. We like to see solar panels that are balanced with the roof, and I think it does that. And so I just make a comment about that, and I think it's pretty close to being approvable. Just a few little moderate changes that have been suggested to you. So we look forward to seeing this as a hop. Anything else? Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, boy. Next item on our agenda is Historic Preservation Tax Credits Group Number 3. We have a staff.
Mr. Chair, we do not have a staff report. We just have the Group 3 tax credits for your consideration. If you have any questions.
That's what I meant.
That's it? That's it. So we're just looking for you to, if you have any questions, be happy to answer them, but to affirm receipt and recommend that they be approved out when we transmit the entire batch of approvals to the Department of Finance later this year.
This is number 3, and we used to get 4, is that?
It really depends on the year.
Okay.
Some, we've had as many as 7.
Oh, my goodness.
I believe.
Okay.
I think we'll be reviewing these well into June or July.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve what we've received and to hold them until we have all of the tax credits to submit to the Finance Department?
Mr. Chair, I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve the Historic Preservation Tax Credit Group 3 and hold this group till we get all of the remaining groups out there and approve all of them at once.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Domras. Second that.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. It's approved. Next item on the agenda are minutes for April the 12th. I've reviewed them. I find that they say what we did in the meeting, and so I am going to make a motion that we approve the amendments from April 12th.
This is Commissioner Galway. I've also read them, and I second that.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Okay. Do we have any commission items? Do we have any staff items?
We have one staff item. The commission's been talking about making adjustments to our policy guidance for solar technology for property owners to give them better direction in terms of what the board's looking for. And I just wanted to remind everyone about the policy guidance that's in your board books from solar technology that we created in summer of 2021. I'm just going to hand out some hard copies. Staff thought this would be useful for you to reference in terms of providing us feedback and how you would like to see this document amended. And in particular, most of the conversations that the Commission's been having is revolving around the suburban historic sites and districts on page 6 and 7 and 8. And on page 8, there's the guidance for how we should mount traditional roof-mounted solar panels. And if you all want to provide any guidance in terms of, to this document, I think that would be helpful to staff and, amending this to make it the most accurate and helpful for the community and for staff and the board.
Thank you. We actually, I gave our small group that went and reviewed the solar panels, I gave them some suggestions. They are looking at them and they will get them back to me, and then we will go from there. It won't change the overall plan. It just will hopefully provide some guidance.
Yeah, I think that's what we were directing the board to on page 8 in particular, because that has probably the best area to add additional guidance, where it says traditional roof-mounted solar panels should, there is general guidance about having a low profile, being mounted less than equal to 6 inches from the roof. And I think if the board has additional comments and guidance they want to provide, somewhere within that framework would be a helpful way for us to update this document to disseminate it.
And we will try to do that. I will hopefully get their comments by next meeting.
I have a question. Now this is a different document, but we had previously either training or a document a year ago or a year and a half ago. Has anything changed in the criteria, or is the criteria still the same?
This document's the same as it was when you all reviewed it back in the summer of 2021.
Okay, but this is a different presentation.
Same presentation.
Same presentation?
Yep.
And this document's in your board book, and it's on our website for homeowners to review.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other staff items? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.